بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين ولا عدوان إلا على الظالمين وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له رب العالمين وأشهد أن سيدنا ونبينا محمد عبده ورسوله المبعوث رحمة للعالمين صلى الله تعالى عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه الطيبين الطاهرين ومن تبعهم بإحسان ودعا بدعوتهم واستنى بسنتهم واقتدى بهديهم إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد. My dear respected brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, we are gathered here. Virtually, we are gathered here. Physically, we are in different places in our respective homes. But virtually, we are gathered together to learn about Salatul Taraweeh, a great sunnah of the month of Ramadan, and in particular, touch on some of the questions that may be in our minds regarding how are we going to fulfill this important ibadah given the current circumstances and the restrictions on coming to the houses of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the masajid. So inshallah, we will begin with a general discussion about Taraweeh, and then thereafter we will move over to specific rulings regarding this Ramadan. And throughout the program, inshallah, you can text your questions regarding the topic to 630-360-2373, the Masjid Dar es Salaam number. Again, 630-360-2373, 630-360-2373. The Masjid Dar es Salaam number. You can go online and see our number on the contact information page if you missed the number. And I will take the questions at the end of the session, inshallah. I do not want to be interrupting the program by going back and forth from my subject matter to the questions. We'll take the questions at the end. And majority of you are repeat listeners, and you know that, alhamdulillah, we used to have the Q&A night on Sunday nights. That was an open Q&A. There were no limitations on the nature of the questions. However, tonight, I request you to respect the topic and try to ask questions related to Taraweeh or Ramadan in general. Maybe we can expand it to include fasting. On Wednesday nights, we have been doing the Fiqh of fasting in quite a bit of detail. Those who have been listening, majority of the questions have already been answered that you might have had. But we might have some new guests join us tonight. If they have any questions, okay, we will take those as well, because that is very relevant. If you have questions relating to zakat, I will hold on to those questions, give you a heads up, as most of you who are on a listserv should know. If you're not on our listserv, then you need to get on the listserv so you're up to date regarding the programs, or subscribe to the YouTube channel so you will get the notification when it goes live. And my brother here, Maulana, is reminding me that the bottom of the flyers have the number, so you can text your questions to, on the number that is mentioned on the bottom of the flyer. So inshallah, as I said, tonight is the Fiqh of Taraweeh, and then we will also have the Fiqh of fasting. I mean, Fiqh of fasting is completed. Fiqh of Taraweeh is tonight. Fiqh of Ramadan, Fiqh of Zakat. I'm getting confused myself. So many different things going on. Alhamdulillah. Yes. So I'm looking for the flyer, but basically, the Fiqh of Zakat is coming up. One moment. So inshallah, when the Fiqh of Zakat seminar takes place, please join us for that one as well. And we will have like a really detailed discussion on zakat at that point. So all the flyers are up. I've been told the flyers are up, and you can see on the YouTube the different flyers, inshallah. Okay. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Now, jumping into Taraweeh, the word Taraweeh itself is Jam'u Tarweehatin. It is the plural of the word Tarweeha. And Tarweeha, Tarweehan, or Tarweehatan, and Taraweeh, plural. So Tarweeha means to give linguistically, literally, it means Tarweehatun lin-nafsi ay istiraha min al-raha wa hiya zawalul mashaqqa wal ta'ab. Tarweeha means to give rest to the body. Taking a break, taking a rest. And during the Ramadan prayers, سميت الجلسة التي بعد 4 ركعات في ليالي رمضان بالترويحة للاستراحة. The break that we take after every 4 rakat during the Tarawih prayers, the night prayers of Ramadan, is known as a tarwiha. So after 4 rakat, when we take a break, that's called a tarwiha. Then we perform another 4 rakat, we take a short break, that's called tarwiha. ثم سميت كل 4 ركعات ترويحة مجازا. The actual break was called tarwiha, and then the units of 4 rakats were also started to be called tarwiha. So you have, after 4 rakat, you have a tarwiha, or that is one tarwiha. The second 4 rakat is 8 rakats, you have 2 tarwihas. And then you pray another 4 rakat, you have a third tarwiha, that's 12. Then you pray another 4 rakat, and you have 16, 4 tarwihas, 4 units. And then you pray a final 4 rakat, that's your 5th tarwiha, and you have Salatul Tarawih. And the reason it's called Tarawih and why is it based off of this tarwiha is because in the past they used to have really long qiyam. And لأنهم كانوا يطيلون القيام فيها ويجلسون بعد كل 4 ركعات للاستراحة. Because they used to have very long qiyams and recite the Quran very slowly with a lot of tadabbur and tafakkur and contemplation. And then they used to take breaks between the 4 rakats. People used to go to the bathroom, used to make fresh wudu. In Makkah, people used to make a whole tawaf in the break. In Medina, people used to perform additional 4 rakat nafal because they didn't have a Kaaba in Medina to make tawaf of, and they used to compete with the people of Makkah. So they said, oh my God, people in Makkah are doing tawaf. What can we do? Let's start praying nafal rakat, additional 4 rakat nafal. So we're going to come to the number of rakats in detail, but since we talked about the word tarwiha, I just want to highlight one point that in Arabic, there is a singular form of a word, and then there is a dual form, and then you have the plural form. This is a little bit unique. Most languages that we are used to, like English or Urdu or other languages, there's only a singular and a plural. Singular means one, and plural means 2 or more. So you have, for example, Muslim means one Muslim, and Muslims with the S at the end would mean 2 or more Muslims. However, in the Arabic language, there's singular, then dual, then plural. So if you have one Muslim, it's Muslimun. And if you have 2 Muslims, there's a specific word for that, which is the dual form, Muslimani, means 2 Muslims. And if there are 3 or more, then you have Muslimuna. Some of you might be wondering, why am I going into grammar? Am I giving a grammar lesson? Did I forget the topic? I'm going into teaching Arabic. That is not the case. It has a direct bearing on the issue at hand when discussing the rakat of Tarawih. Without going into the evidences from hadith and the ijma of the Sahaba and all of that, which we are coming to later in the program, from purely linguistic purpose, from a purely linguistic perspective, literally looking at the word Tarawih, it means that Tarawih is agreed upon that it's the plural of the word Tarwiha, which means taking a break after 4 rakat. So 4 rakat prayer is Salatul Tarweeh. 8 rakat prayer would be Salatul Tarweehain, 2 breaks. And minimum 12 rakat, you would have Salatul Taraweeh because you have 3 breaks. You understand? Because the word Taraweeh is a plural, it means multiple breaks, 3 or more breaks after a 4 rakat units. So any number of rakat less than 12 from the language perspective can't even be called Taraweeh. If it's 8 rakats, mashallah, may Allah accept all the 8 rakats. It could be Salatul Tarweehain or Tarweehatain. But it will not be Salatul Taraweeh because there are only 2 breaks found in 8 rakat, one after the first 4, one after the second 4. So that tells us that, wow, if we pray 8 rakat and we believe that to be the actual sunnah and anything beyond that to be a bid'ah or innovation, then something is wrong in our understanding. We need to be corrected. Some food for thought, something to think about and to contemplate over. Okay. The next point I wanted to mention is Salatul Taraweeh, Qiyamu Shahri Ramadan. Salatul Taraweeh is the ibadah that takes place in the month of Ramadan, mathna, and it is performed in 2 units of 2 rakat. 2 rakat followed by 2 rakat. And this is something distinct and unique from Salatul Tahajjud. And Salatul Tahajjud, it comes from the word hajada, إذا صلى الليل. When a person performs worship at night, it's called hajada. Or tahajjada, يقال tahajjada إذا أزال النوم بالتكلف. Tahajjud means to try hard to keep awake and drive away the sleep. That's what it literally means. And in Sharia, in the Sharia terminology, في الاصطلاح صلاة التطوع في الليل بعد النوم. Tahajjud is the nafal prayer that is performed at night after sleep. After sleep. When you wake up in the last third of the night. So, right from the definition, from the get-go, we understand that there are 2 distinct prayers. There are 2 different prayers. We should not confuse one with the other. One is Salatul Taraweeh and one is Salatul Tahajjud. Salatul Taraweeh fi layali Ramadan khasatan. It is only performed during the nights of Ramadan. Okay? Whereas Salatul Tahajjud is performed throughout the year. All 12 months of the year. So that is one very distinct difference between the 2. A second difference is that Salatul Taraweeh لا يشترط لها أن تكون بعد النوم. It is not after you sleep. Rather, Salatul Taraweeh is performed after Isha, before sleeping. And Salatul Tahajjud, the actual time for Salatul Tahajjud is ba'da al-nawm, when you wake up from your sleep. That is why Tahajjud, it means izalatul nawm bit takalluf, to drive away the sleep, and that is why it is harder for sure to get up for Tahajjud, and it is more rewarding. So that is the second difference. The third difference is that Taraweeh is performed in Jama'ah, in congregation, and Tahajjud is performed individually. Tahajjud is performed individually. Okay. The fourth difference is in normal conditions, Taraweeh is recommended to be performed in the Masjid, and Tahajjud is performed in the confines of one's home, in the homes. That is the fourth difference. People flock to the Masjid normally, as we all witness and participate ourselves, in large numbers to perform Taraweeh, sometimes even larger than the Jummah crowds. And in the last third of the night, you don't find the masjid full of people performing Tahajjud. Rather, people perform tahajjud at homes. Okay? And the fifth difference is that completion of the entire Quran is a distinct, separate sunnah when it comes to Taraweeh. And there is no such stipulation for Tahajjud to complete the entire Quran. That's the fifth difference. The sixth difference is that Taraweeh is sunnah to perform 20 rakat, whereas for Tahajjud, the sunnah of Rasulullah ﷺ is to perform 8 rakat. Now, it looks like I can't escape from this whole discussion of 8 rakat versus 20 rakat. I was just going over the differences between Tahajjud and Taraweeh, and once again, the number of rakat cropped up. So let me jump ahead and just finish this discussion so we don't have to keep on coming back to it. Subhanallah. The reason why we are mentioning the difference between Taraweeh and Tahajjud, and this is the agreed upon consensus of the scholars of all four schools of thought, the Hanafiya, the Malikiya, the Shafi'iyya, and the Hanabila. So when I'm quoting in Arabic, I'm quoting from different sources I have in front of me. One of them that I'm quoting from is the Al-Mawsu'a Al-Fiqhiyya, the Fiqh Encyclopedia in Arabic, Al-Juz Al-Sabi' wal-Ishrun, the 27th volume. And this is a great project with the collaboration of scholars and fuqaha from across the Muslim world. They compiled this encyclopedia. Who did this? Wazaratul Awqaf wa Shu'un al-Islamiyyah, the Ministry of Awqaf and Islamic Affairs from the government of Kuwait. So this is not something which is a Indo-Pak subcontinent work. It has actually been sponsored by the Kuwaiti government. And it is not a Hanafi book in Urdu written by some scholar from Deoband, for example. With all due respect, sometimes people think this is a Desi concept to perform 20 rakat. No, this is coming from Kuwait government with an Arabic work. And it is not a Hanafi perspective only. It is a perspective of all the madhahib. And they have references to the accepted works from all the schools of thought. And it is this book in front of me that I'm quoting while I am speaking to all of you, where it talks about the number of the rakat of Taraweeh. So let us keep some of the points that I already mentioned in mind so we don't get confused. The one point I already mentioned is that the word Taraweeh itself means that it has to be a minimum of 12 rakat, and 8 rakat would be considered Tarweehain, or it would not be Taraweeh because there are only 2 breaks after units of 4 in 8 rakat. And the word Taraweeh requires there to be 3 breaks. And so what are the evidences for Taraweeh being 20? The first is the history of how Taraweeh happened. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he performed the Salatul Taraweeh with the Sahaba radiallahu anhum ajma'in in the Masjid al-Nabawi for a few nights. And afterwards, he did not continue. And he encouraged the Sahaba to continue performing, but he himself did not lead them. So I can go over the narrations in this regard. What is the narration of Rasulullah ﷺ encouraging us to perform Taraweeh? He said, "Inna Allah farada siyama Ramadanin alaykum wa sanantu lakum qiyamahum." This is a well-known hadith. أخرجه النسائي, narrated by Nasai من حديث عبد الرحمن بن عوف رضي الله تعالى عنه that verily Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is the one who made the fast of Ramadan farad upon you, and I have made the standing in ibadah at night sunnah for you. So he attributed the fast in the day towards Allah, that this is a faridah, an obligation from Allah. And the qiyam at night, he attributed to himself, and he said, this is my sunnah. And Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, he also narrates, very often quoted hadith, من قام رمضان إيمانا واحتسابا غفر له ما تقدم من ذنبه. That whoever stands in ibadah in Ramadan with iman and ihtisab. Ihtisab means looking forward to the reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then all of his past sins will be forgiven. This is narrated by Bukhari and Muslim. And the Shurahul Hadith, the commentators of Hadith, they have written, اتفقوا على أن صلاة التراويح هي المرادة بالحديث المذكور. That in these hadith, Rasulullah ﷺ is specifically talking about Salatul Tarawih. So Rasulullah ﷺ, he performed Tarawih for a few nights, and then he gave it up. And he mentioned the reason why he's not continuing is he fears that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make it an obligation and a faridah and a farad action upon the ummah when he sees the desire of the Sahaba, and when he sees how excited they are to continue performing the salah, and together they are gathering in the masjid, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala might make it farad. So that's why he did not continue. The hadith is, Aisha radiallahu anha narrates, أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم صلى في المسجد فصلى بصلاته ناس. That Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam performed salah in the masjid and people joined him in prayer. ثم صلى من القابلة فكثر الناس. Then the next night he led the prayer and more people joined. ثم اجتمعوا من الثالثة فلم يخرج إليهم. Then they gathered the third night and he did not come out. فلما أصبح قال. Then in the morning came, he addressed his companions and he said, قد رأيت الذي صنعتم فلم يمنعني من الخروج إليكم إلا أني خشيت أن تفرض عليكم. He said, I have seen your enthusiasm, your energy, your excitement in performing the salah in jama'ah with me. The only reason I did not come out is because I was afraid that it will be made a farad upon you. This is narrated by Bukhari and Muslim. Both. Muttafaqun alayh. Agreed upon. So, this was the salah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and that is the reason he did not continue. That reason was limited to the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, when the Sharia was still being changed, and the Sharia was still being developed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And after Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed away, the deen was completed. اليوم أكملت لكم دينكم, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed, that I have completed the deen for you, Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. وأتممت عليكم نعمتي, I have completed and perfected the deen. I have completed my favors upon you. ورضيت لكم الإسلام دينا, I have chosen Islam as your deen. Now nothing can be added or taken away. But in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, things were changing. Salah was not farad itself, the 5 times daily prayer in the beginning. After Mi'raj, as we all know, it became farad. Zakat was not farad. There was nothing was farad. And first it was just the kalimah of Tawheed. Then one after the other, the ahkam came. So, if something is not farad, it was a possibility it could be made farad. All the pillars of Islam came into existence after Islam. Obviously, they were not there from before. Maybe you could say Hajj was there, but Hajj was completely changed, and the rites were established by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, different from that of the Jahiliyyah. Speaking of Hajj, when Rasulullah sallallahu performed the Hajj, one questioner asked, "Afi kulli amin ya Rasulullah?" Is this going to be an obligation every year? So Rasulullah sallallahu said, "Why are you asking so many questions? And I just said it is a farad, and now you're asking, is it every year? Um, if I said yes every year, then Allah could have made it farad every year. No, it is farad once in a lifetime." So that gives an example that the Sharia was still evolving, developing in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, the few nights that he did perform the salah, how many rakats did he perform? So there's different narrations. One narration is narrated by Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma. قال كان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يصلي في شهر رمضان في غير جماعة ب20 ركعة والوتر. أخرجه أبو بكر بن أبي شيبة والبيهقي في الكبرى والطبراني في الأوسط والحافظ ابن حجر في المطالب العالية. That Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu ta'ala anhu narrates that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he used to perform 20 rakat and witr. So this is a hadith narrated by the different narrators of the compilers of hadith that I mentioned, Abu Bakr ibn Abi Shayba, Bayhaqi, Tabrani, etc. There is some discussion about the strength of this narration. However, what happened next during the Khilafat of Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu is something which is agreed upon, and there's no questioning regarding its validity and its authentic nature. What happened during the Khilafat of Umar radiallahu anhu. So let's jump to that. So this is what happened few nights, and then everyone started performing the individual salah. Then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when did this happen? This happened in the end of his life. In some of the scholars say perhaps this was the last year of his life, because we do not have a narration about what happened the following Ramadan. So this was perhaps the last Ramadan of his life when he started this practice. And then after he passed away, we have Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu, who took over the reins of Khilafah. And his period of time was a very difficult time because there were false prophets cropping up, Musaylamatul Kadhab, Aswad Anasi, Tulayha. And then there were Murtaddeen, those who were apostates, and that they had given up Islam. And then there were Mani'een of Zakat, those who said we will not give the Zakat money to the central capital in Medina. They refused. And then we have, subhanallah, outside threats from the Roman Empire, etc. So he did not have an opportunity within the 2 years that he was, 2 years and some months that he was Khalifa. Only 2 Ramadans passed. And he did not have an opportunity to pay attention to the Taraweeh issue. After him, during the Khilafah of Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, so he saw the people were performing the salah in small groups in the masjid, in their respective homes, etc. And in the second Ramadan of his Khilafah, the scholars specify that وَفِي رَمَضَانِ الثَّانِي مِنْ خِلَافَتِهِ. In the second Ramadan of his Khilafah, he made mashwara with the Muhajirun and the Ansar, the Sabiqun al-Awwalun min al-Muhajirin wal-Ansar, the great early predecessors among the Muhajirin and Ansar. Majority of the Ashara Mubashara, the 10 Sahaba guaranteed Jannah, were present, with the exception of Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu. So we have Uthman ibn Affan and Ali ibn Abi Talib, and we have Talha ibn Ubaidullah, Zubair ibn al-Awwam, and Abu Ubaidah ibn al-Jarrah, Sa'ad bin Abi Waqas, Sa'id ibn Zayd radiallahu anhum. And Aisha radiallahu anha was present right next door because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had passed away in her house, and her father was, and her husband Abu Bakr and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam were buried there. So she was still there. She moved out after Umar radiallahu anhu was buried. And her presence is key as well, that she was around and she was aware. And he consulted with everyone, and he decided that we should perform the salah in jama'ah, going back to the original sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the fear that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had that Allah Ta'ala could make it farad and it would be difficult for people to continue to follow, that fear no longer has any bearing because the Sharia is now complete. It is narrated by Abdurrahman bin Abdul Qari قال خرجت مع عمر بن الخطاب رضي الله عنه. I came out with Umar ibn Khattab رضي الله عنه ليلة, one night, في رمضان إلى المسجد, in the month of Ramadan, to the masjid. فإذا الناس أوزاع متفرقون. So all of the people were separated in different groups praying. يصلي الرجل لنفسه. Some people are performing salah by themselves. ويصلي الرجل فيصلي بصلاته الرهط. And others are performing with a few brothers in jama'ah with them. فقال عمر رضي الله عنه said إني أرى لو جمعت هؤلاء على قارئ واحد لكان أمثل. He said, I think that if I gather all of these people behind one imam, then it would be better. ثم عزم فجمعهم على أبي بن كعب. Then he gathered them together and he made this decision, and he chose Ubay ibn Ka'b radiyallahu ta'ala anhu to be the imam. Subhanallah. So Ubay ibn Ka'b, why was he chosen to be the imam? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had granted him the great certificate and qualification by saying, أقرأهم Ubay ibn Ka'b. The greatest qari amongst my companions is Ubay ibn Ka'b radiyallahu anhu. أقرأهم, the superlative degree. The greatest qari amongst my companions is Ubay ibn Ka'b radiyallahu anhu. So he was selected to be the imam, and everyone started performing salah in jama'ah. This is the wisdom of Umar radiyallahu anhu that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had foretold. لو كان بعدي نبيا لكان عمر. If there would be a prophet after me, it would have been Umar. He said, إن الحكمة تنطق من لسان عمر. Verily the wisdom springs forth from the tongue of Umar. Subhanallah. He is the one من كان رأيه موافقا بالوحي والكتاب. The one who on 14 occasions gave an opinion, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the Quran to confirm the opinion of Umar radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. He would give an opinion, Ya Rasulullah, this is how the matter should be decided, and Allah revealed ayat from the heavens in the form of the Quran that we recite till today, confirming the opinion of Umar radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. And we have to defend this because people unfortunately object and say this is the bid'ah of Umar. Na'udhu billah, na'udhu billah. How dare we say such a thing, that this is an innovation of Umar. Rather, it is a sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam which was revived by Umar radiyallahu ta'ala an. In fact, a good example we can give is the Quran that we read from, the Quran that is collected in the form that we have. We can ask the people who read from the Quran and who object and say this is a bid'ah of Umar, that was the Quran collected in one form, one physical book during the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Absolutely not, because the Quran was continually being revealed, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would call different katibin of wahi, the scribes of revelation, and would dictate to them ayats of the Quran, and they would write it down. But it was not collected in one book form. So it was all spread out. Just like the Taraweeh was scattered, the Quran was scattered. And just like the Taraweeh, Umar radiallahu anhu brought them people together, he brought the Quran together. When was this? In the battle of the apostates, under the false leader Musaylama Kadhab. There was a great battle in the battle of Yalamlam during the Khilafat of Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu, when 700, it's one narration mentions, Huffaz of the Quran became shaheed. So Umar radiallahu anhu, because he had the foresight, because he had the wisdom, and he would look into the future, and see the problems that could arise, and he would come up with solutions beforehand. He came to Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu and said, Ya Amir al-Mu'min, or Ya Khalifata Rasulillah, O successor to the Prophet, O Khalifata Rasulillah, I fear about the Quran being lost because we are losing the Huffaz. So I give you my mashwara that you should collect the scattered pieces of the Quran into one book, and it would be the standard copy of the Quran where others could copy it from, and could relate back to it. So Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu initially did not agree, and he said, how can I do something Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has not done? In his inaugural address, he had mentioned, Inni muttabi'un wa lastu bimubtadi'in. I am a follower and I am not an innovator. I will follow my Prophet. I will not innovate new things. How can I do this? Then Umar radiallahu anhu had to explain the need for it, and that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam never collected the Quran in one form because it was still being revealed. Just like the Sharia could have changed and the Taraweeh could have been made farad, it's the same exact example. That fear was there for Taraweeh. Likewise, the Quran was still being collected. So the Quran was still being revealed, so it was not collected. So now that Rasulullah has passed away, no more Quran is being revealed. So we don't have to worry about messing up the order of the surahs. The surahs are complete. Let us put it together. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Hatta sharaha Allahu sadra Abi Bakr, until Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu got peace of mind and he said, yes, you are right. Then they called Zayd ibn Thabit radiallahu anhu, made him the head of the committee, and then the collection of the Quran occurred. And during the Khilafah of Abu Bakr, through the mashwara of Umar radiallahu anhu. So likewise, he gathered the scattered Taraweeh and he joined them together during his Khilafat. And Qadi Abu Yusuf, rahmatullah alayhi, he says, Sa'altu Abu Hanifa, he is a student of Abu Hanifa. He said, I asked Abu Hanifa an Taraweeh wa ma fa'alahu Umar. I asked him regarding Taraweeh and what Umar radiallahu anhu had done. فقال التراويح سنة مؤكدة. He said Taraweeh is a emphasized sunnah. ولم يتخرص عمر من تلقاء نفسه. And Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu did not come up with this innovation from his own side. ولم يكن فيه مبتدعا. He is not an innovator regarding this matter. ولم يأمر به إلا عن أصل لديه واحد من رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. He only did so because he had knowledge of this from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam performed it in Jama'ah himself and would have loved to do so, and he only stopped because of a specific reason. ولقد سن عمر هذا وجمع الناس على أبي بن كعب فصلاها جماعة والصحابة متوافرون من المهاجرين والأنصار وما رد عليه واحد منهم بل ساعدوه ووافقوه وأمروا بذلك. This is from Fath al-Qadir, that Imam Abu Hanifa is explaining to his student Qadi Abu Yusuf, and he says that, look, Umar radiallahu anhu, he established his practice and he gathered the people under the imamat of Ubay ibn Ka'b. So they performed it in Jama'ah, and all the Sahaba from Muhajirin and Ansar were present, and none of them objected. Rather, they supported him in this decision and they agreed with him. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself has said in Sahih Hadith that ittaba'u sunnati, follow my sunnah, wa sunnatil khulafa'i rashidin al-mahdiyyin, and follow the sunnah of my rightly guided khulafa. Follow the sunnah of the khulafa rashidin. This is the command of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Addu alayha bin nawajiz. Hold on to it firmly with your molars. So there is no doubt about it that when Umar radiallahu anhu established the salah with Ubay ibn Ka'b radiallahu anhu as the imam, then how many rakat did they perform? They performed 20 rakat. They performed 20 rakat. And one of the qadi of the Sharia and the judge in the Muslim court in Madinah al-Munawwara, rahimahullah, who passed away, Sheikh Atiyya Muhammad Salim, he wrote a book called At-Tarawih Akthar min Alfi Aam fi Masjid al-Nabi alayhi salam, that the history and the record of Salatul Tarawih for more than 1,000 years, as it has continuously been performed in the Masjid of Nabi alayhi salam. And he proves through historical record that during Umar radiallahu anhu's time, Ubay ibn Ka'b was the imam. Thereafter, during Uthman ibn Affan's time, radiallahu anhu, the next Khalifa, Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu was the imam. And who were the imam and who were the mu'adhin during the Khulafa Rashidin era and during the Banu Umayyah era, the Umayyads, then the Banu Abbas era, the Abbasids, then the different kings, and finally the Ottomans and the Uthmaniyun, the Ottoman Empire. And after them, after the breakup of the Ottoman Empire, the Saudi era began. And till today, till his time, he shows that continuously throughout the centuries, that subhanallah, there has been a consensus that 20 rakat have always been performed. So this is something which all of the different madhahib, the Shafi'iyya, Hanabila, Malikiyya, Hanafiya, all agree upon. The Malikiyya even mention additional rakat, 36 rakat, because in the breaks of the 4 rakat, they used to perform additional 16 rakat, 4 additional rakat. So that is how they had 16 additional rakat. So they go up to 36. This practice started from the time of Umar bin Abdul Aziz rahmatullah alayh. And that was the Amalu Ahl Medina, the practice of the people of Medina that Imam Malik took. But the original Taraweeh is 20 according to him. And additional 16 nafal rakat. So that is the history of the Taraweeh that we see being performed from the time of Umar radiallahu anhu till today. And the question might come that where does it even arise, this whole opinion of 8 being sunnah? So that we should also mention and not leave out that mistaken understanding. It arose from the hadith of Aisha Siddiqa radiallahu ta'ala anha, who narrates regarding the prayer of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam of Tahajjud Salah. When she was asked that how was the Qiyamul Layl in the night worship of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Tahajjud prayer of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in Ramadan. So she said in her hadith, ما كان يزيد في رمضان ولا في غيره على 11 ركعة. That Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, whether it was Ramadan or whether it was outside of Ramadan, he always performed 11 rakat, 8 rakat tahajjud and 3 rakat witr. So this hadith is taken by people and mistakenly applied to the Taraweeh. And they say, see, the Taraweeh should be 8 rakat with 3 rakat witr. But this hadith is regarding tahajjud prayer. And as you can see in the wording itself, she said, ما كان يزيد في رمضان ولا في غيره. Whether it was Ramadan or whether it was outside of Ramadan, he always performed 11 rak'ah. Okay? So she's talking about outside of Ramadan as well. Because the questioner might have thought that since Ramadan is really virtuous month, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam might have performed more rakat of tahajjud. So she clarified it that perhaps the length was longer and the khushu' was more, but the number of rakat of tahajjud were constant. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam throughout the 12 months of the year would always perform 8 rakat tahajjud, and he would perform 3 rakat of witr. That's the 11 rakat she is referring to. So this is regarding tahajjud. This is not regarding Taraweeh. If she believed this was regarding Taraweeh, then she would have objected when Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu established the 20 rakat. She would have said that, hello, I'm the narrator, I know that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam always performed 8 rakat. Why are you performing 20? But she did not object because she knew that this is regarding tahajjud. What is the difference between tahajjud and Taraweeh? I already mentioned. I'm not going to repeat myself. I went over 6 differences. And the placement of the hadith in the respective chapter that it is put into is very significant because it indicates the understanding of the scholars of hadith. So all of the scholars of hadith that have mentioned the hadith of Aisha Siddiqa radiallahu anha, they all have mentioned this hadith in the chapter of tahajjud. When they had the chapter of tahajjud, they mentioned the hadith of Aisha radiallahu anha performing 11 rakat. And when they have the chapter on Taraweeh, they do not mention the hadith of Aisha radiallahu anha because they don't believe it has anything to do with Taraweeh. Imam Malik is one of the narrators of the hadith. He himself believes Taraweeh to be 20 or additional 16, as I mentioned, 36 rakat. So, this is as illogical as if a person takes a hadith which pertains to Maghrib Salah and he comes to the conclusion that Isha Salah is 3 rakat. Isha Salah is 3 rakat because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam performed 3 rakat. But that 3 rakat is referring to Maghrib, not Isha. So likewise, these 8 rakat are mentioned by Aisha Siddiqa. It is an authentic hadith for sure, but it's referring to it's referring to Tahajjud, not Tarawih. Now, if whether it's mm, uh, Imam Malik, he brings it in his Mu'atta, but not under the chapter of Tarawih. Imam Abu Dawud, he mentions this hadith, but not under the chapter of Tarawih. Imam Tirmidhi mentions this hadith, but not under the chapter of Tarawih. Imam Nasai in his kitab mentions it, not under the chapter of Tarawih. Imam Abdul Razak, Abu Awana, Khuzaymah, Darimi, all of these authors, all of these scholars of hadith, as well as the scholars of fiqh, they mention this hadith, but they all classify it as a hadith regarding Tahajjud Salah. So that should be very firmly established at this point, and we should not be confused. Moving on to other issues now of Tarawih. What is the hukum regarding it? What is the ruling? So the scholars mention that it is sunnah and mu'akkada, firmly established sunnah, for men and for women. It is not only for men, it is also for women. And there are many rewards for it, as Rasulullah ﷺ has indicated. Next point is ذهب الفقهاء إلى أنه لا أذان ولا إقامة لغير الصلوات المفروضة. There is no adhan for it, nor is there any iqamah for Tarawih Salah. Rasulullah ﷺ made adhan for Salawat al-Khams wal-Jum'ah دون ما سواها من الوتر والعيدين والكسوف والخسوف والاستسقاء وصلاة الجنازة والسنن والنوافل. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he performed the adhan for 5 daily prayers and Jum'ah. And he didn't for the other prayers besides it, like witr, Eidain, lunar and solar eclipse prayers, prayer for rain, prayer for janazah, sunnah prayers, nawafil prayers, tarawih prayers. There's no adhan. The niyyah we have to make is that we should make the niyyah that we are performing the sunnah rak'ah of tarawih. This niyyah does not have to be articulated with the tongue, but it has to be something, intention in the heart. And the intention has to be in the heart that we are performing the sunnah rak'ah. We are performing the sunnah prayer of Tarawih. And resting after 4 rakat, the Tarawih is sunnah, but it is not something which is mandatory if a person has strength and does not want to take a long break. It is permissible. However, and if a person does take a break, it's better. You can remain silent or can do dhikr. يندب الانتظار بين كل ترويحتين ويكون قدر ترويحة ويشغل هذا الانتظار بالسكوت. You can remain silent. أو الصلاة فرادى, or individual salah if there is time for that. أو القراءة أو التسبيح, or he can recite Quran or make tasbih and dhikr. ولا يسن دعاء معين إذا استراح لعدم وروده. There is no specific dua because it has not been narrated from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, nor from the Sahaba. There is no specific dua. So this tasbih tarawih that is very popular, Subhana Malik al-Quddus, Subhana al-Izzati والعظمة والهيبة والكبرياء والجبروت سبحان الملك الحي الذي لا ينام ولا يموت سبوح قدوس ربنا ورب الملائكة والروح اللهم اجرنا من النار يا مجير يا مجير يا مجير. This is, the wording is permissible. There's nothing wrong with the wording. It's praise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you can do it, but you should not do it with the intention that this is a sunnah established from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Is merely permissible. You can make any other dhikr. As far as taslim is concerned, making salam, it is recommended in the actual sunnah to make salam after every 2 rakat. You should not perform 4 rakat together to make it quicker and then make salam, or 6 rakat, 8 rakat together. Rather, every 2 rakat make salam. The fuqaha have also mentioned yukrahu lil muqtadi an yaq'ada fi salat tarawih. It is makruh for muqtadi to perform the salat tarawih sitting down if he does not have any excuse. فإذا أراد الإمام أن يركع قام. Then when the imam is about to go into ruku', then he stands up and joins the prayer. So this is makruh tahrimi. لأن في ذلك إظهار التكاسل في الصلاة والتشبيه بالمنافقين. Because this is a way of demonstrating laziness with regards to prayer, and it is adopting similitude with the munafiqeen that Allah Ta'ala says about them in the Quran. وَإِذَا قَامُوا إِلَى الصَّلَاةِ قَامُوا كُسَالَى. When they stand to perform ibadah, they stand in a lazy manner. Okay. Those that have a valid excuse, please do not get scared. فإذا لم يكن ذلك لكسل بل لكبر ونحوه لا يكره ولم. Okay. So if this is not due to laziness but rather due to old age or being handicapped, then of course it's not makruh. It's not makruh to sit down and perform salah. And one masala does not mention here, but I read other place, is that if the imam is sitting and performing salah, is it permissible to follow behind? It is permissible as long as the imam does sajda on the ground. If the imam is not doing sajda on the ground, is doing sajda from the chair, then that imam cannot be leading the Taraweeh. If the imam is not standing, sitting in a chair and leading, it is fine as long as that imam is making sajda on the ground. Unless the imam and the muqtadi, everyone is sitting on a chair, then they're all equal and they're all not making sajda on the ground, then that's fine. But if the muqtadi is making, the follower is making sajda on the ground, the imam is not, that is not fine. What is the time for Salat Taraweeh? It's right after Salatul Isha. If Taraweeh is performed before Isha time enters, because, for example, somebody says, oh my God, I have a long day, short night, and Isha time starts so late, I'm not going to wait till Isha. I'll start after Maghrib Taraweeh. That is a no-go. You can't do that. It starts after Isha. It starts after Isha and preferably before Witr, but it can continue after Witr. And how does this play a role? It is if somebody misses some rakat of Taraweeh, came late, or had to go to the bathroom in between, missed 2 rakat, 4 rakat, then you can still perform the witr in jama'ah with everyone else, and after the witr is over, then you can make up the missed rakat of Taraweeh. You don't have to forego the witr and say, no, I can't pray witr, I have to complete my Taraweeh first. Taraweeh is absolutely valid after witr as well. And as far as performing Taraweeh in jama'ah, that is the mashru' and sunnah way, as established by the sunnah of the Khulafa Rashidin. However, if there is difficulty in now, like nowadays, the scholars have all mentioned that coming together in the masajid has been forbidden by the government, and safety is important. So therefore, we can perform the Taraweeh in our homes. We had a conference call of the ulama of Chicagoland, and a great number of muftis were on board on the call, and we came to the consensus that we are not going to encourage people to gather together in their basements, all the neighbors, extended family members, and friends, and perform Taraweeh at home in larger congregations. Rather, only the family members, immediate family members, should pray in their respective homes. If they have a hafiz, that's great. He can lead the prayer and complete the Quran. And if they don't have a hafiz, then recite whatever is known to the imam. If they have to repeat the surahs, that'll be fine as well. That comes to the next point about khatm al-Quran al-Kareem fi Taraweeh. As-sunnatu al-khatmu marratan. فلا يترك الإمام الختم لكسل القوم. Alright, so the scholars mentioned that completing the Quran, making a khatam of the Quran, is a sunnah in the Taraweeh. And Imam Kasani, Abu Bakr Kasani, mentions in Bada'i al-Sanaya fi Tartib al-Shara'i that ما أمر به عمر رضي الله تعالى عنه وهو من باب الفضيلة وهو أن يختم القرآن أكثر من مرة، وهذا في زمانهم، وأما في زماننا فالأفضل أن يقرأ الإمام على حسب حال القوم، فيقرأ قدر ما لا ينفرهم عن الجماعة لأن تكثير الجماعة أفضل من تطويل القراءة. So he says in the time of Umar radiallahu anhu, they would make multiple khatam, up to like 3 khatam. Every 10 days they would make one khatam. But now, because people do not have that energy and that level of devotion, it is better if you just do 1 khatam in Ramadan. So that is masnoon. Speaking about the khatam and reciting the whole Quran, one of the FAQs, frequently asked questions nowadays, is how about can we recite from a Mus'haf in Taraweeh? And there are many fatwa on this subject currently floating around on WhatsApp and emails, etc. So Imam Abu Hanifa rahmatullahi alayhi very strongly believes that holding a Quran and reciting from a Quran, meaning what is known as the Mus'haf, a copy of the Quran, would invalidate the prayer for multiple reasons. One is the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or from Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, the narrations where this has been forbidden. It is mentioned that Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu كان ينهانا Umar radiallahu anhu used to prohibit us that the imam should be reciting from the Mus'haf, and that a child should be leading the prayer. So this is two things that were prohibited in this one hadith. And besides the prohibition, other reasons that are mentioned is that this is tashabbuh bi ahl al-kitab, adopting similitude to the people of the book, the Jews and the Christians. When the Jews, they do their worship by the Wailing Wall in Jerusalem, as you have seen in pictures or seen in real life, if you have visited there, they're always holding the Torah in their hand and rocking back and forth. And then you have, that's one reason. Another reason, first was the prohibition. Second was of Umar radiallahu anhu. Second was adopting similitude with the people of the book. Third reason is that we are gaining talaqi min al kharij, meaning if you gain correction of what you are reciting or inspiration from within the prayer, from someone behind you in the salah corrects your recitation, then that is fine. That's recommended, in fact, to correct the imam. But if someone is not part of the prayers, from outside the prayer, and the person who's outside the prayer is correcting the imam, then that would break the salah of the imam, because that would be communication with someone outside the prayer. So reading from the book is from gaining inspiration from outside the prayer. And so that is the third reason. Fourth reason is that amal al-kathir, that this is excessive movement, opening the Quran, closing the Quran, turning the pages, finding the right page, and then putting it back when it's done reading. All of this is excessive movement of the arms and hands. And Allah Ta'ala says, وَقُومُوا لِلَّهِ قَانِتِينَ. When you stand in ibadah, stand with sakitin, without movement, and only move from the position that is given to us by Rasulullah ﷺ to the next position, and additional movement is prohibited. Because of these reasons, Imam Abu Hanifa rahmatullah alayhi, radiyallahu anh, he believes that it will break the salah. And the other imams, I will mention there is an ikhtilaf here. When it came to 20 rakat, everyone believes in 20 rakat. You know, those who come from the subcontinent, when they come to America, if they see a new practice, sometimes the knee-jerk reaction or the first interpretation is, oh, that must be the Shafi'i madhab. Because if other people are doing something different they're not used to, oh, that must be the Shafi'i madhab. That's not always the case. When it comes to 8 rakat, that's not the Shafi'i madhab at all. But when it comes to holding the Quran, yes, I must mention that there is a valid difference of opinion. In the Shafi'i, Maliki, Hanbali schools, it is permitted. They base that off of the hadith of Aisha radiallahu anha and her slave, who the wording of the hadith is not 100% explicitly clear, but one of the interpretations is that he used to read from the Mus'haf and then lead in prayer. So the Hanafis, they interpret that he used to practice beforehand from the Mus'haf, and he used to review it and make sure he knows it well before leading the prayer. And the Shafi'iyya, they interpreted that he would actually be holding the Mus'haf in his hand while leading the prayer. If he was actually holding the Mus'haf, that could be the particular view of Aisha radiallahu anha, which is contrary to the view of the other Sahaba. And that was her respected view, and we respect her for that, but that is not the view of other Sahaba. The general practice is that all the Imams, in Masjid Nabwi, from the time of Umar radiallahu anhu until today, they never lead the Quran holding the Mus'haf, they recite from memory. That's for sure. And I went to one Muslim country. I'm not going to identify which country because I'm going to say something negative. And I spent 40 days in that country, traveling across it from masjid to masjid. The entire time I stayed in masjids. I did not stay in the hotels. And there was huge, gigantic masajid. And now practicing upon this interpretation of it's permissible to have the Quran and open it and read from the Mus'haf. This gigantic masajid, ancient masajid, centuries old masajid, built with stone and beautiful. In the mihrab where the Imam leads, they had the stand with the Quran. And I would ask the people, what is this for? They said, this is for Taraweeh. I said, you don't have a Hafiz? They said, we have no Hafiz. I was thinking, I repeatedly asked this question. In so many masajid, I saw the same thing. And I said, subhanAllah, you know, as our elders say that, you know, beta, when your kids, you know, be new mathematics because we used to think with our brains. You guys are all dependent on calculators. Or even more recently, I can even relate to it. When I was a kid, people used to have a sense of direction, north, south, east, west, and roads, etc. Now everyone is dependent on the GPS, and they have given up on and they have lost their sense of direction. And I also remember people would know 20, 30, 40, 50 phone numbers by heart, and then they would dial it from memory. Nowadays, with the speed dials on the cell phones, people, I have come across examples where they don't even know the phone numbers of their family members, spouses, children, parents. Why? Because they use the speed dial. So there's so many examples of this. So if you rely on technology, then we lose it. So the hifz of the Quran, which is a unique attribute of our unique, should I say, special gift of Allah Ta'ala for this ummah that is distinct for this ummah. You are going to lose it if we rely on reading from the Quran. And back when I was imam in St. Louis, I remember I attended different interfaith events, and I would take an opportunity to point this out. When the rabbis would have their Torah, and the priests would bring the Bibles to quote verses regarding their topic, then I would say that, look, I don't have my Quran with me in my hand because I have memorized it, and it's not me. I'm not trying to say I'm great. I'm just a weak hafiz myself, to be honest. But I want to portray the beauty of our deen, that we have millions and millions of young children who are hufaz of the Quran. On the other hand, leaving that Islamic country aside, if you look at where people follow the fatwa of Imam Abu Hanifa rahmatullahi alayhi in the Indo-Pak subcontinent and other places, within a masjid, every single small masjid, people are fighting, hufaz are fighting to lead the prayer. And not only is there hafiz, the entire first saf and second saf may be hufaz. So this is a barakah of memorizing the Quran. So that is the question with regarding holding the Quran. So we should not be doing that in this Ramadan just because we are performing at home. So what are some guidelines for performing Taraweeh at home? We should dedicate a clean and comfortable place for prayer in our home. This is the Masjid and the Bayt. And we should set a time to pray Isha nightly. Make it a regular time for the whole family. Don't just keep it, whenever everyone's done with their work and food, and have a specific time set aside. If there is a local masjid where the adhan is being called, then we can just make the iqamah. Otherwise, we can call our own adhan and iqamah and perform the farad salah in jama'ah. And if we are performing salah in jama'ah, the imam would be the male. Again, there's another fatwa moving around that the lady is leading the salah, or in Taraweeh, if not farad, leading the men in prayer. That is absolutely not correct from the consensus of the scholars. There are different rules for men, different rules for women. As far as imamat is concerned, that is a rule for men. So the man, you would have if there's one male muqtadi, he would be on the right hand side of the imam. If there are more than one male, there's 2 or 3, 4 males, they would have a saf behind the imam, and behind them would be the saf of the women. If there are children that are male, they would be with the male side. The girls would be with the women, and the woman would perform salah behind, in the back. And after performing the farad, then recite adhkar, make dua, then perform the sunnah mu'akkada, 2 rakat sunnah mu'akkada, then perform the Taraweeh, whatever surahs we know, recite those surahs. We don't have to try to grab a Mus'haf to read out of the Mus'haf. And whatever Taraweeh we are not able, whatever Quran we are not able to recite in the Taraweeh, let us recite twice that amount outside of Taraweeh. Why not? Because we are in lockdown, we are stay-at-home orders, we can recite more Quran outside of Taraweeh. Then we perform our witr in jama'ah. Witr in jama'ah is only performed in Ramadan, otherwise it's performed individually throughout the year. Try to remove distractions like our cell phone, electronic devices. And these are some advices with regards to performing the Taraweeh at home. And as far as fasting is concerned, it remains obligatory. And the only reason I'm mentioning this is because someone asked me this question, that if there's a chance I'm going to catch the coronavirus, can I not fast? Of course, if you are sick and exhibiting symptoms, whether it's corona or COVID or any other sickness. فَمَنْ كَانَ مِنْكُمْ مَرِيضًا أَوْ عَلَى سَفَرٍ فَعِدَّةٌ مِنْ أَيَّامٍ أُخَرَ. You can fast other days. You can make it up later. Whether if you're pregnant, if you are nursing, if you're sick, if you're traveling, those exemptions there always exist. But possibly I might get sick, therefore I'm not going to fast. That will not fly. For fasting is an obligation. It's a farida. And so I'm not going to go into the fiqh of fasting. I'll leave that. But that question came up, so I in my mind, so I mentioned that. People ask about the sufuf. I mentioned it, right? The imam. If there's imam in one male, the male will stand on the right of the imam. If there's imam in one female, the female will stand a row behind the imam. And if there's an imam in two males or more, then the males will stand in a row behind the imam. If there's an imam only in two females, the females will stand in a row again behind the imam. So it is definitely better, like all the men and the women, to perform in jama'ah. Sometimes, the woman will say that I'm taking care of the baby, I'm taking care of this or that, or the man will say that I want to pray earlier and go back to sleep. Things like that, different schedules. We should not do that. We should all perform in jama'ah at home. And another point before I get to the questions that are coming in is that this is another fatwa that is going around about joining the congregational salah via the internet or TV or any receiver. That is absolutely not permissible. We cannot perform salah where our imam is in a masjid leading somewhere, anywhere else in the world, even if he's in the same time zone, and we are performing salah behind that imam at home. That's not going to be valid. Sometimes people say, well, it happens in the haram. Well, in the haram, the sufuf are extending all the way up to the hotels. And that's why the people in the hotel can perform behind the imam. But the sufuf from the masjid are not extending to our home, for sure. So we cannot draw that analogy. That is called in fiqh, qiyas ma'al fariq. This is the wrong analogy. So salat is an ibadah that we have to be in the same physical location. If there's a home where a smaller apartment, for example, where everyone can gather together in one room, so the men are in one room, the women are in another room, if you use a baby monitor or use some speaker system, that's fine. If the women are behind the men, right, in another room, that's fine. And another question is coming about i'tikaf. This is kind of outside the scope of Taraweeh, but I'll mention it that the original ruling is for men they have to perform i'tikaf in the masjid. There is no i'tikaf for men at home. But some of the muftis have now given fatwa that if the masajid are actually closed down, it is recommended that the imam or the muazzin or those who work in the masjid, if they are legally allowed to come to the masjid for work and they are less than 10 people, 5, 6 people, they can still perform the i'tikaf while maintaining social distancing to fulfill the sunnah, kifaya, communal sunnah of i'tikaf. But the rest of the people who want to do i'tikaf, they may do it at home. Original fatwa is that there is no i'tikaf at home for men. There is only i'tikaf at home for women. However, in this current situation, some of the muftis, respected scholars, have given permission of i'tikaf at home. And lastly, I want to mention about Eid Salah, which might come up. And if the restrictions continue till Eid, then the same conditions for Jum'ah apply for Eid, that we have to have minimum 4 people. 3 besides the imam to perform Eid. If you do not have 4 people, we should not go around getting more people to perform Eid at home. Rather, we should just perform nafil prayer without additional takbir and make dua to Allah Ta'ala. Ya Allah, we are not able to perform the Eid Salah, please forgive us. And what a situation has befallen the ummah that we are performing nafil prayers at home instead of performing Eid Salah. So that is with respect to Eid prayer. And of course, overall, continue to recite salawat regularly. Continue to repent to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, ask forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that because of our sins, perhaps this calamity has befallen us. But we should turn to Allah in zikr and ibadah. So now I want to, it's gone a bit longer than I had imagined. I want to go to the Q&As now. Those who want to drop off the call, I would... I don't want to keep holding you longer then how long you have already been listening. But I want to take some of these questions. I don't know if I can take all of them. Wow, there's a lot of questions came in, but I will take some of them. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. One question. Is it preferred to pray Salatul Qada over Salat Tarawih if you missed many Salatul Farad? Subhanallah. Salatul Tarawih is Sunnah Mu'akkada. So normally we say that Salatul Qada of the Farad prayers has higher priority over Nafil prayers. But it's Sunnah Mu'akkada, so we should not miss a Sunnah Mu'akkada. We should perform the Sunnah Mu'akkada, and then instead of additional Nafil, we can perform Qada. Next question. Can a child or an adult who is not performing Taraweeh give a luqma if Imam makes a mistake? Let's say he or she is following the Imam's recitation by using Mus'haf and whenever finds a mistake corrects it. No, the Imam cannot use a Mus'haf in the Hanafi fiqh, nor can the Muqtadi using a Mus'haf. That will break the Salah of the Muqtadi and break the Salah of the Imam. So what they should do is, if the Imam is not strong and there's no strong Hafiz listening behind, then they can record the recitation and go over the recording and correct it the next prayer or the next day. Or someone can be listening, holding the Quran outside, and then inform the Imam after the two rakats are over and the Imam makes salam, and he can repeat it in the next rakat. And if there's a child, behind the child can correct the Imam, no problem. And if there's a woman behind, she can clap her hand if they are non-mahram in part of the jama'ah. But if there's no non-mahram part of the jama'ah and they're only family members, then she can correct the Imam. This is a new fatwa. It's not a new fatwa, but it may be new information. It's an old fatwa that may be new information for some people. Normally, when you have a jama'ah, you're going to have non-mahram men there, right? So therefore, the woman should not loudly correct the Imam, because her voice could be a source of fitna for the other men. However, if they're only family members, as most likely the case nowadays, then if the Imam makes a mistake, the female muqtadi, the sister who's performing salah, maybe she's the wife, maybe she's the sister or the daughter, she can correct the Imam. She can correct the Imam audibly. The next question is, in Makkah, 10 rakats will be offered. What is their dalil? Yeah, so in Makkah, basically, they never performed less than 20 all these years. Now, for the first time, they're doing that. Allah Ta'ala A'lam why they are doing that. They say that they want to conclude quickly and wrap it up so that people will get less chances of getting infected, etc. And only the employees will be there, and a few people in a closed area. Rest of the whole haram, Allahu Akbar, so sad to think about it. Whole haram is going to be empty. Mataf will be empty. No umrah being performed in Ramadan, and a few people will be praying 10 rakat. Actually, they follow the isolated opinion of Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, who believes any number of rakat can be performed, 20 being ideal, but any number of rakat is okay. That's what he believes. So they're following that. And then moving up, I see some more questions. Let's see. Okay. Yes, subhanallah. This is a broader question. This is broader discussion is required to answer this. It's not a quick answer. Why? How come women have to pray behind the men? Why can't women lead the salah? So there is a distinct role for men and there's a distinct role for women. Both are have equal rights in Islam, but not identical rights. Allah Ta'ala, when He speaks about men and women, He talks about different roles, different responsibilities for men, different responsibilities for women. But Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, it does not favor one over the other. Allah Ta'ala says about men and women together, إِنَّ الْمُسْلِمِينَ وَالْمُسْلِمَاتِ وَالْمُؤْمِنِينَ وَالْمُؤْمِنَاتِ وَالْقَانِتِينَ وَالْقَانِتَاتِ وَالصَّادِقِينَ وَالصَّادِقَاتِ وَالصَّابِرِينَ وَالصَّابِرَاتِ وَالْخَاشِعِينَ وَالْخَاشِعَاتِ وَالْمُتَصَدِّقِينَ وَالْمُتَصَدِّقَاتِ وَالصَّائِمِينَ وَالصَّائِمَاتِ وَالْحَافِظِينَ فُرُوجَهُمْ وَالْحَافِظَاتِ. He mentions 10 different categories. It's a long ayah. Mentions 10 categories and says that all of them who are believing men and women, righteous men and women, fasting men and women who give charity, men and women who remember Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about 10 categories and says that Allah will forgive all of them and grant them Jannah. So the system of Allah is the same for men and women. It is only that the roles for women are different. The roles for men are women and men are different. So when it comes to imamat and leading the prayer, This is a role specifically given to men. So women should not feel that this is degrading them, but this is the responsibility Allah has given men. Now, a man might say that I love children. I want to give birth to my child. My wife gave birth to one child. Why can't I give birth to a child? He just can't. That's the role of motherhood. A man will never have. Or he will say that I want to suckle my baby. I would love to suckle a baby. I love to, I have a fatherly love, just like the motherly love. But no matter how much fatherly love he has, he can never suckle his baby. So there's a specific role women have. Now, instead of cherishing those women roles and saying that this is what is a source of honor for us, that has been turned as a burden. And that is the effect of feminism on our mentality. And we are also, as Muslims, have been affected by feminism because that's part of a broader society that we live in. And that is the basis of why these questions are arising. But we entertain the questions. We're not going to ignore them. And this is not the time or place. And we're going over time as it is. I was supposed to end at 9:15. We started at 8:15, 1 hour. I'm hitting 9:30 now. 9:32 it says. So that means we're going over time. But I didn't want to ignore this. So moving on. I heard that it is mustahab to start the first Taraweeh with Surah Alaq as it was the first surah revealed. Is this true? Yes, that is a Shafi'i opinion, not in the Hanafi opinion. That is a difference of opinion on that. Also ending the Taraweeh with the first few ayats of Surah Baqarah. Yes, that is masnoon because of the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, rahimallahu al-hal al-murtahil. May Allah ta'ala bless the traveler. Kullama halla irtahala. When he reaches the journey conclusion, then he starts a new journey. The Sahaba asked, Ma al-hal al-murtahil ya Rasulullah. What do you mean? The one who ends his journey starts a new journey. Is he racking up miles? He keeps on traveling. He ends the journey, starts the next one. Then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam explained, he's the one who journeys through the Quran. Whenever he completes the Quran, then he starts the next recitation of the Quran immediately. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam practice was whenever he would make khatam of the Quran, then he wouldn't stop at Nas and make dua. Rather, he start the next recitation up to Ulaika ala hudam min rabbihim wa ulaika humul muflihun of Surah Baqarah. Then he would stop and make dua. So you start the next recitation and make dua. Another set of questions, just to clarify, it's wrong to pray 8 rakats in Taraweeh. It's not wrong to pray 8 rakats in Taraweeh. It's sunnah mu'akkada. You can perform 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. You can perform any number of rakats for Taraweeh. They're all correct, okay? Because it's sunnah to begin with. What's wrong is to believe 8 is only sunnah and anything more than 8 is a bid'ah. That is wrong. Okay, so this is a good question. Thank God that person asked the question. So that I was able to clarify it. Praying 8 is okay because if a person is tired and exhausted, prays 8 or prays 10, prays 6 or prays 4, and then he will miss the sunnah. He's not missing a farad. If it's not farad, I can't make it farad. I'm not going to say it's a farad if it's not a farad. What's wrong though is to say that anyone praying more than 8 is committing a sin. I didn't have time to go into the whole history of the book I mentioned of Sheikh Muhammad Atiyah Salim. He writes in the introduction, when he speaks about the Salatul Taraweeh in Masjid Nabawi for over 1,000 years, it's always been 20 rakat. He writes in his introduction that the reason I'm writing this book is it pains my heart that people perform 8 rakat Taraweeh in Masjid Nabawi and they're not tired and going back home. They're still sitting in the back, but they start doing dhikr, they open the Quran and start reading, and they look around at everyone else and say, you guys are all doing a bid'ah. You guys are praying more than 8, it's a bid'ah. So that, I want to correct that misinterpretation, and that is why I'm writing this book. Okay, next question. Nowadays, if there is a hafiz in the house and he still doesn't do a khatam, would that be wrong? It's ideal he does a khatam. It's a sunnah to do a khatam. If he can't, then he's missing the sunnah. Are there any requirements of the people following in the Jama'ah, just as in Jummah, to have 3 baligh? No. You can perform Taraweeh with 2 people as well, or 3 people, 4 people. There is no condition like in Jummah. Can a non-baligh lead the Taraweeh, meaning a minor who has not reached puberty cannot lead the Taraweeh? No. Cannot lead the Taraweeh. Cannot lead the Taraweeh. If there is only one Hafiz in the family and there is no one to give Luqman correction, then there is potential for the Hafiz to make uncorrected mistakes. Should the Hafiz lead Taraweeh? Yes, the Hafiz is still the best choice. And inshallah, you'll be forgiven because you don't have any other option at this point. So inshallah, you should still go ahead and have the Hafiz lead the Taraweeh. Subhanallah, now we're going into moon sighting. Oh my God. This is a huge topic. Okay. So, yes, calculations is not following the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There's a distinct hadith, Sahih hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Sumu li ru'yati wa aftiru li ru'yatihi. Fast when you see the moon, break your fast when you see the moon. So we follow the actual sighting of the moon. And we can have a whole seminar on that, inshallah. Uh, yes, and the scholars of hadith, another question, they mentioned the hadith of Aisha under the chapter of Tahajjud, not under Taraweeh. That's correct. If you don't know enough surahs for Taraweeh, you can repeat them in other rakat, most definitely. You know, back in the days before we had Hufaz, they used to have the Alam Tara Taraweeh. So how it goes is, you recite Alam Tara in the first rakat, then Li Ila Fi Quraysh second rakat, then Arayta Alladhi third rakat, then Inna Atina fourth rakat, then Qul Ya Al Kafirun sixth rakat, Ida Ja'a seventh rakat, and then Tabbat Yada eighth rakat, Qul Allahu Ahad, Qul Allahu Ahad, Qul A'udhu Nas. Basically 10 surahs, 10 rakat. And then you would repeat the 10 surahs. You can do that. You can repeat the same 10 surahs if you don't know other surahs, and ask Allah Ta'ala, oh Allah, allow me to learn more surahs, make dua to Allah Ta'ala. Can you perform Taraweeh alone? You can perform Taraweeh alone. Yes, you can perform Taraweeh alone if there's no one else to perform with, or the family is busy sleeping or doing something else. Unfortunately, not praying in Jamaat, you can perform it alone. Another question before that was, you said Tahajjud is done individually, but in Saudi, Tahajjud is done in Jama'ah. Why is that? Yeah, so Tahajjud basically, it's supposed to be done individually. In the time of Rasulullah, it was done individually. It was never performed in Jama'ah. But some scholars, they permit it, even though it's not the Sunnah of Rasulullah. In the Hanafi madhab, Tahajjud is not performed in Jama'ah. Do you need a minimum of 4 men for Jummah or Eid Salah, excluding all women? Yes. You need minimum of 4 men for Jummah or Eid Salah. 1 Imam and 3 Muqtadis. 1 Imam and 3 followers. You need a minimum of 4 for Jummah, as well as for Eid Salah. There's a few more questions here I want to grab, because this is they're really relevant questions. What is it? Let's see. Okay. Can men and women do itikaf at home? Yes, I talked about this. Originally, women can do itikaf at home. There's no itikaf for men at home, but given the current circumstances, the scholars have given permission for men to do itikaf at home as well. Another question. Alhamdulillah, my daughter is a Hafiza Mubarak. My question is, can she lead Taraweeh prayer for me and my other daughter, or stay in the middle and lead the Taraweeh? If the answer is yes, when she is doing Taraweeh for all girls, can my husband and son stand in straight line with us girls, or they are not permitted? Please confirm. Jazakullahu Khairun. Yes, if a woman leads other women, there may be some scope for that, because in other madhab it's permissible. In the Hanafi madhab, the salat is valid, but it's makruh. In the imam, the lady, the sister will stand in the middle. Some scholars and muftis have given permission for Taraweeh so that the hufaz or hafizat can strengthen their Quran. However, under no circumstance can men perform behind the woman. So if the hafiza girl is leading only women, there may be some scope for that, but definitely not if her husband, her father, her brother, her husband, son, other male family members cannot perform behind her. Okay, and I think I'm gonna have to stop this somewhere. So maybe this last question I'll take. Is it better to lead Taraweeh and not have focus in the Salah? Okay, or to pray Taraweeh alone and have good concentration in your Salah? It doesn't have to be an either or, the way you're presenting it. You can try your best to concentrate in Jama'ah as well. Therefore, you'll get the concentration at whatever level you can, and you can get the reward of Jama'ah. The Salat with Jama'ah is more rewarding than Salah individually. There are many hadiths that indicate that. Salah with Jama'ah is more rewarding. So if you have to work harder to focus, you will get reward for that effort, but it would be more rewarding than performing individually. Subhanallah. How many minimum people with kids required for Taraweeh? The kids don't count, you don't need. There's no minimum requirement, as I mentioned. You could have 2 people as well. Okay. Can women lead only women Taraweeh? I answered that. Can one person read Taraweeh on their own? Would it be considered Taraweeh at that point? Yes. Do the same rules apply for Jamaat requirement as Jummah prayer? No. Can you perform Taraweeh while following Imam on YouTube, WhatsApp? No. Yeah, so the question is asking, why do people not know the dalil, and why do they perform 8 rakat when you have so many dalil? unfortunately, uh, that's just unfortunate. People do not take time to learn. Um, and there are some scholars who have taken the hadith of Aisha radiallahu anha out of context, and there are scholars, they made that mistake, and they're the ones who have written that, and they propagate that, and so others are following that. So it's not just the common people came up with that, it's actually scholars who came up with that wrong interpretation about 8 rakat, and they are confusing other people. That's where that confusion came from. I think I should pause here. It's getting really late, and everyone still has to perform Isha Salah at home in Jama'at, inshallah. So I'll conclude with the dua. Please remember Darussalam in your duas. Please remember all of our teachers here, all of our students here, and make dua that we are able to open up and continue to be charitable, inshallah, in the month of Ramadan. We are in great need of your assistance, your zakat that you'll be discharging. I don't want to be shy in mentioning that we are in great need of scholarships for our students. About 70 students require zakat scholarships. Please give a portion of your zakat to Darussalam for the student scholarships. It's about $8,000 for the tuition of the year, and you can sponsor half a student, 4,000, quarter student, one student, multiple students, depending on your ability. May Allah Ta'ala give more barakah in your rizq, and may Allah Ta'ala protect you and your family members. We conclude with the dua, inshallah. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, rabbil alameen. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد وبارك وسلم. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. Oh Allah, oh Allah, oh Allah, make this coming month of Ramadan blessed for us. Oh Allah, shower your mercy upon us. Oh Allah, grant us deliverance from the fire of Jahannam. Oh Allah, enter us into Jannah, Ya Rabbil Alameen. Oh Allah, grant us safety and security from all calamities and sicknesses, Ya Rabbil Alameen. Oh Allah, despite all the difficulties, make this one of the best Ramadans in our life, Ya Rabbil Alameen. Allow us to recite more Quran in this Ramadan than we ever did in the previous Ramadan. Oh Allah, allow us to make more istighfar and tawbah and dhikr and ibadah in this Ramadan. Oh Allah, we used to waste so much time in iftar parties and in frivolous pursuits in Ramadan. Now we are locked down at home. Oh Allah, allow us to memorize the Quran, Ya Rabbil Alameen. Ya Allah, in the past we have read about our mashayikh and scholars. Many times they became hafaz of the Quran while they were locked up in jail by the enemies of Islam and by tyrant kings. Oh Allah, we are locked down in our homes. Oh Allah, maybe we can become hafaz of the Quran or start memorizing the Quran. Oh Allah, allow us to utilize this opportunity to our benefit, Ya Rabbil Alameen. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.